and welcome to the Bald Ambition Podcast. I'm your bald host, as you can see, and the one with ambition today is Mr. Robert Grzesik, CEO of LumiWealth, and he has launched a captivating platform called BotSpot. To me, it's the convergence of everything hot in terms of what's trending in fintech. You've got AI, you've got the agentic model where bots do complicated tasks for you. In this case, doing your trades. I'll let Robert introduce himself, the company, and this new offering. And I'm excited to have you and talk about the latest and greatest in fintech.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that introduction, Mookie. That was great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So maybe let's start at the beginning and then you could finish at the end. So specifically, give us a little bit about your background in technology, in finance, and what essentially gives you the creds to launch something audacious like this.
Sure. Yeah. It's definitely been a long time coming. I'll tell you that much. It's honestly one of the products I've wanted to launch a big chunk of my life is BotSpot. This is something that I'm very passionate about. But to tell you kind of where that's coming from. Starting from, how I got into technology, I was maybe 11 or 12 years old when I learned how to code computers. So I was one of those people, learned at a very young age. These days, more people learn at a young age, but, back then it was much less common. But so started at a very young age, made my first software quote unquote company when I was 15, selling like video game hack type things. And that kind of got me really excited about business. I was making more money than my parents were for a point in time. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. Like I love tech, I love software. And now I became like really hooked on business. So I went to business school, got my BCom in a school called McMaster in Canada. Then did my master's of finance right after that. And then the intention of the Master of Finance was, maybe I'll go into investment banking or something like that. But I couldn't scratch this itch of, running a tech company is something I've always loved to do. And I've always had, and really the seed of this idea behind BotSpot came from when I was at doing my college degree. And I used to teach on the floor of, we had a trading floor where we had a bunch of Bloombergs and Reuters terminals. And
I remember those old days. It's hard to imagine when your smartphone explodes now with all the information you need. But the Bloomberg terminal were the touch points to business success, right? He really anchored that whole market.
Oh, yeah. He still owns it. I mean, still makes a ton of money off it, right?
Yeah.
So I would teach people how to use these things. And I couldn't shake the feeling of like, well, what if we use software to trade instead? Like, wouldn't we be able to like almost solve finance, right? There's, this theoretical limit that if you got the most powerful AI on the planet, you could theoretically almost solve investing, right? In a sense, right? So that's something that a feeling I've never really shook and always really want to get into this. But after grad school, I started a business with a friend of mine. It went really well. Software company. We ended up selling it, made a good amount of money. Gave me enough money to travel the world for a bit. Eventually landed in New York because, finance capital of the world. Worked for a company called Greystone where met my first billionaires, a couple of billionaires working there. Basically ran their their tech team, and that eventually spun off and got sold for a couple $1 million. And then worked for a company called Voyager, which I know you probably want to talk about. I think I was employee number 4 at Voyager. And that company was basically a competitor against Coinbase, right? So at the time, Coinbase was a lot smaller. We were actually like a legit competitor against them. We started to do very, very well. The company went from basically zero, where just a bunch of us in a WeWork. We got investors from the guys that founded Uber invested in us, which was really cool to meet them. And then eventually the company rose to being worth about $1 billion on the stock market, right? So I had stock options in it. That was really cool watching that shoot up. But right about the time that we hit $1 billion valuation is when that whole FTX debacle happened, right? So FTX collapsed, Three Arrows Capital collapsed. Three Arrows Capital being this huge hedge fund that owed us $650 million. When that kind of a loan goes bad on a startup, you don't tend to survive it. So it took our company down with it. So that was kind of the whole thing with Voyager. We went from 0 to $1 billion and right back down. So it's
Yeah,
a
that was
interesting
par
thing.
for the course, at least at that initial phase, right? Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's still fun to do that, to say you start a company that was worth at least at one point $1 billion, right? And then after that started this company, LumiWealth, where we basically began by just teaching people how to build trading algorithms. That was never the intention for the long term. It was really to get to know the audience, get to know what people want in the space, really do our research. And then about a year ago, around almost exactly a year ago, November or October, November last year, something very special happened, right? And there's an event that not I don't think enough people talk about, but ChatGPT came out with its O1 model, which people talk about 3.5, people talk about 4. Not a lot of people talk about O1 when that came out. But when that happened, my head exploded. It was like we went from basically, I spent my entire life coding, right? That's the moment where I said, it does not make sense for me to code anymore, right? And we have a business, we're teaching people how to do this stuff. Now, all of a sudden, we can go from it takes you 6 months to learn how to build a trading algorithm to now we could do it for you in seconds. You just type it in and it works,
So, in
right?
a nutshell, the reality of vibe investing
Yeah,
came
but
to you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, basically.
So, you've got vibe coding of websites, other resources. So, you are the vibe investor guy. Is
I
that a
think
way
that's
to
a good way
maybe?
to put it. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
All right. So, you have this perfect convergence of your fintech background coupled with the evolution of the LLMs and then the agentic model, which is essentially instead of just entering a single prompt, an agent will perform a sequence of more sophisticated tasks and kind of take it over from there for you. So it's a macro kind of phenomena. Instead of just saying, write me an essay about Abraham Lincoln, you say, I've got X dollars to spend, put together, and I'm leading the witness here, but put together some trades, put together a viable portfolio, and go for it. Is that
Ab-
more or less what we're talking about?
yeah, absolutely. So there are different definitions to what an agent is exactly, but the one that most people would converge on is basically an AI that could do things for you, right? It's
Yeah.
not just a question answer. This thing can actually go off and accomplish goals for you. So as opposed to you saying, to your example, um, I think a better analogy would be instead of asking questions about Abraham Lincoln or whatever, and what do we need to do, and you put together some sort of essay. Instead, it could actually go off, write that essay for you, go to the website, submit it to your professor,
Exactly. Right. Get
and
it
then
published.
yeah, and get it
All of
published.
a
Yeah,
sudden, you're the expert on Abraham Lincoln.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
All right.
exactly.
All right. So you've got that idea. And, I've been to the website. I'll put the website obviously in the descriptor link, as well as any other resources you'd like to refer our listeners and viewers to. And it looks like you're off to the races. So, what are you asking of clients and what do you do for them specifically? Let's say I've got a chunk of change and I want to give this vibe trading idea a whirl. How would I go about effectively doing that?
Sure. So there's really two things that you can do. Uh, on the one side, if you have some sort of idea in mind, if you have some sort of trading strategy in mind, maybe you're someone that's been trading for some time, maybe you have heard about some idea. A lot of people come to us and say, I watched this YouTube video and wow, this looks really cool. I want to replicate that. You could take that, come to our website, and we can actually do that for you. So you talk to our AI agent and it'll go off and build it for you. Right. So you might say something like, something that I did last week, and actually, something that we actually do now every week is we do a live session where basically I use the AI to create some sort of new trading strategy, and I use real money, and people could tune in and watch me do that every week, right? But something that I put in is, for example, make me a trading strategy that trades call options on the tickers that are trending the most over the past 3 months, right? And I'll type that in, I'll give it, some more details about the stuff, and you send that, and it will go off and build this for you and come back to you, and it basically will generate Python code for you that could actually do that task, right? It will produce a graph, like a flow chart explaining how it works. It has like a written write-up saying this is how the strategy works and what it's going to be doing, right? And then you could go from there and back test, right? So you can see how would this have performed over the past 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. If you had ran this, starting the beginning of 2024 and you ran until now, what is the likely outcome that would have happened? So you could back test it like that, or you could deploy it. We make it very easy to deploy to a bunch of different brokers, right? You can kind of go from there, right? And then usually what will happen is you'll create this strategy and you'll run a back test and you'll get some sort of result, right? You might get a result that's something that's like, wow, this thing is awesome, right?
Well, historically, based on
Historically,
longitudinal analysis,
correct,
retrospectively, right?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we do want to put that legal caveat in there. Is that what is the thing they say? Historical performance doesn't necessarily indicate future results, right?
Yeah.
It tells you something. I mean, like, let's put it this way: if you ran a back test and it lost you a bunch of money, I'd say pretty good chance it's going to lose you money in the future, right? But if you run a back test and it made you a bunch of money, there's a chance it will do that in the future, but not 100%.
Yeah. Every time you flip a coin, heads or tails, let's say you get 20 heads in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not the best analogy, but you're still playing with probability, and it has to
Yeah.
be predictive by nature, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, we created a Palantir trading bot, right? Trade Palantir, buy call options every Thursday, hold them for a week and roll them. If they hit a profit target, sell them. If they, hit a stop loss, sell them. Right. You could kind of tell the strategy to do that. And if you do that, you get a really, really nice looking backtest curve. Right.
Yeah, and
This is,
also just to
you know,
comment, if you're creating an agent, a vibe code for your investing, and it's based solely on buy and sell parameters that you set ceilings for, upper lower boundary,
Mhm.
then it's kind of just a useful trading buddy rather than a predictive mechanism that's higher risk, right? I
I
mean,
mean, you
you're
can do both, right? There's a possibility to do both through our platform.
okay.
Right? So if you want to, and a lot of people just want to have, because it is your money after all, right? And to have something that just maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, right? Like it's a little bit more risky. So a lot of people will just opt for, here's my parameters, buy at this spot and do this and whatever. And you can
Right,
get
right.
very,
So
very
I'm just looking at baseline. So if you're
yeah.
looking at a handy helper to
Hmm.
kind of manage otherwise complicated trading in aggregate that
Hmm.
can get increasingly nuanced and detailed based on whatever you figure, it's like
Hmm.
having an efficient secretary or trading partner.
Yeah, it's like having your own. Someone actually describes it for us like having your own hedge fund analyst, right? Because before, seriously, like about a year ago, you would have to pay someone quite a bit of money to do this for you, right? Because
Okay, that's taking it to another level, though. It's not just orchestrating trades based on what you explicitly ask it to do, but doing some predictive machinations.
yeah, so there's kind of two ways they could do that, right? One way is you could just allow our AI to help you figure out what those,
Okay.
we'll say, discrete boundaries are,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm getting at. I'm trying to
Yeah.
slice and dice your value proposition and capabilities from low
Right.
risk to high
Yeah,
so
yeah,
people can kind of understand what you do.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's one way you could do it. You could have like more of a discrete type of algorithm, right? Like it buys at the money call options with a
Right.
delta of whatever when the VIX is at a specific level and the stop loss is at 10%. And you could have very discrete types of things like that. And our AI could help you figure out what are the right parameters, right? Because you could back test it. You could say, okay, that parameter didn't work. You could try a different one, right? And then you could ask the AI, what would be a better parameter, right? Like what
So it
else could we
does
do?
great modeling. You're
Yeah,
doing modeling.
yeah, it does really great modeling,
Okay.
and it can help you actually predict what are the better things, right?
Right.
So that's one type of algorithm that you can make. Another type of algorithm is one that you could get it to use AI to not be discrete, right? So so for example, if you talk to our AI and you tell it use Perplexity, which Perplexity is an AI, right? And we really like using Perplexity because it has really good search engine capabilities, right? So you could say make an AI that will analyze, what are people saying is the next big stock for the next week, right? And that's something that's pretty out there. Like, who knows what this thing's going to have, right? And we can build that for you, right? The problem is we can't really back test that, right? Because we don't know what the AI would have said a week ago or a year ago
Well,
or
it's by
whatever.
nature predictive.
Right,
Right.
exactly. So we can't back test that, or at least it's a lot more difficult to back test something like that. However, the potential of it doing something very interesting is higher, right? Because you're giving more control to the AI and just saying you could tell anything. Like, I mean, I've seen people say, trade biotech stocks, right? Which biotech stock do you think is going to get approved in the next month, right? And buy those. That's one thing that you could tell the AI to do, right? Or you could tell it,
But when you say it plugs into Perplexity, is it
mm,
going to look at current status of phase 3 clinical trials and approvals?
yeah,
It'll
yeah,
take that information.
yeah. If you go into Perplexity and you ask that question to Perplexity,
No,
it's going to,
I know me or the investor. I'm talking about your bot.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So your
Because that's
bot
what
is
it's
going
doing.
to say, "All right, this is a great example. I actually work in healthcare marketing
Mm,
as my
right.
my racket too."
Yeah.
So you say to your example, "I want to invest in biotech."
Hmm.
And then let's look at all the companies, and then it'll integrate clinical trial status and probability for imminent commercialization based
Correct.
on the knowledge that's there. And it'll AI it predictively to see,
Mhm,
well, this new GLP-1 oral medication, right, coming from company X,
mhm.
based on the AI analytics, there's a probability that it might pop Q3 next year. So
Exactly.
there you
Yeah.
go. All
So
right.
it's very similar. So what we'd basically say to our AI is you'd say make a trading bot that uses Perplexity, checks it once a day, looks for stocks that might pop based on clinical trials, make a list and buy that list. Right? You'd basically instruct it to do that, right? And that's very similar to if you as a human sat down every day, did a search in Perplexity, what are some stocks that might pop because of whatever, you're going to give it the same type of thing. Perplexity is going to respond back to you with here's a list of names, and you're just going to buy them manually, right? Our bot can basically automate that process for you.
That's what you mean by the buying buddy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So it's having an analyst at your
yeah,
side with
yeah,
parameters that you set,
yeah,
both in terms of comprehensive swath of data, in terms of types, and depth, presumably. Like
yep,
dive in, add specificity around clinical trials, add variables around the competitive landscape, for
yep,
example, and really know the market, know the science, and maybe even know the precedent, and then hit enter.
exactly. Right. So you'll tell, make me a bot that does this kind of analysis on a daily basis and holds those stocks. You even tell it buy the options, buy call options at the money. You can instruct it to do whatever the heck you want it to do. And that research component for the Perplexity will be that brain that it has to actually make the determination of what to do.
Okay. This makes very clear sense, and I think it's an epic unmet or semi-met need within the investment community. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. So in a way, you're in your fintech GPT. You can call it kind
Yeah.
of like that. Your fintech GPT, your vibe coding my investment strategy and
Correct.
implementation, which leads me to my next question. I got some cash here that I'm willing to invest, at this higher risk kind of experience because we're dealing with new technology and you're relatively new on the playing field. Now, where does my money go? Do you guys connect me with my broker,
Yep.
you've got the bot doing its LLM stuff, right?
Yep.
So let's say $1,000 I'm going to invest,
Mhm.
and money goes from me to your bot, from the bot to the broker. How does this network work?
No, so what you'll do is you'll get with one of our partner brokers. We work with a bunch of different brokers. Schwab is one of them, probably one of the more popular ones. We also work with Alpaca, Tradier, Coinbase, Kraken, KuCoin,
Right.
Binance. We
Yeah,
have a
I
bunch.
saw your icon scroll at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Right.
So we work with a bunch of different partner brokers. So you'd open an account with them if you don't already have it, deposit the money there, and then you'd come to our website, and then you could either make your own bot or you could choose one from the marketplace. By the way, you don't have to make a new one. You could just choose one that people have already made. There's a bunch in there that have some pretty interesting results. One that I've been running that's been doing pretty damn well. Or actually several of them running, more than one. So you can pick one from a marketplace, you can make one of your own. And then when you hit deploy, it's going to prompt you to link your broker, right? So you're going to link your Alpaca, you're going to link your Schwab broker or whatever. Each one is a little bit different in terms of the way that you link it. You're either going to go through like this OAuth process, which is like log into the broker and then we get the credentials from them, or you could share API keys and put those into our platform. And that way we can basically control your broker. Okay. I don't want your money. Okay. There's a lot of legal liability becoming a
Yeah,
broker.
that's the question that comes even when, just an observer comes to your website. I mean,
Yep.
this is kind of question number one. Where does my money go? How do you touch my money?
Yeah. It's all through partner brokers, and there's both a liability and a legal reason behind it. A lot of the stuff that we're doing, we would have to get a broker dealer license to actually take someone's money, which there's a bunch of security concerns, all sorts
Oh,
of stuff.
sure. And that was my
Right.
next question.
Yeah.
Where's the SEC logo? Where's the CFTC logo? It's not on your website.
Yeah, because we are not registered. We are simply a tool, right?
Okay. I
Because
think
we're not.
that's a key point of
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
And I think it's vital to assuage natural concerns for
Mm-hmm.
risk here.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes the model that was, at least in my mind, when I first saw your website and its capability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we were to take your money, then we have to get a broker dealer license. With a broker dealer license, we probably couldn't do a lot of the stuff that we're doing, right? Because there's going to be all sorts of liability reasons across the board that we can't do that, right? Everything from risk controls to all that different kind of stuff. This is why you're not seeing the brokers do this, right? You're not seeing Schwab create a tool like this. You're not going to see Alpaca or Tradier or whatever. They're not going to make tools like this because the SEC is going to be all over them, right? So us being purely a tool and connecting to the broker.
That's very, very interesting. Okay. So you're kind of in the wild, wild west of fintech GPT.
Yep.
You're offering this layer of intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
as it were. It's like a tool, and in ways, it's kind of like an API plugin to your broker. Am I
Yep.
getting that right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Because it's not really evident from just the website and the initial communication. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you are the fintech GPT API plugin to my broker. And I'm
Correct.
essentially giving you authorization through an API or the other methods that you espouse, where I am authorizing you to conduct trades that are based on the parameters that I set using your technology.
Exactly. Yes.
That's what's going on here.
We
Okay.
are neither a broker dealer nor are we a financial advisor. We do not tell you what to trade. You can make your own decisions in that
Okay,
regard.
this is very, very interesting,
Yeah.
right? So you're kind of in the wild, wild west here, which is like it's risky in the sense that as an investor, I'm trusting that your fintech GPT engine is making generally good calls.
Yeah. I mean, well, that depends on what you do, right?
Okay, that's the
Because
next question, which
yeah.
is how much am I being guided? How much am I the man behind the curtain moving all the levers? And what's the relationship between the two? And then lastly, the inevitable question is, how do you guys monetize? Do you get a
Yeah.
slice of a trade? How does that work?
No, we charge simply a monthly fee. Again, for legal reasons, we can't take a slice
Right.
of AUM. We can't take a slice of trades. We legally cannot do that. So we just charge a monthly fee and that's it. And we have different tiers, and depending on the tier, you get different access levels and different types of features, right? So that's for legal reasons as well, right? Because we can't if we took a percentage. I would love to, by the way. If you put in $1 million, I could charge you more. That'd be fantastic, right? If you put in less, I charge you less. That'd be great. But we just legally are not allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, and you're assuaging a lot of my concerns, and I'm sure many listeners or viewers' concerns, like, A, who the hell are these guys? And then B, what are they doing with my money? And I'm seeing a lot of robo investor bullshit on my feed. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
So are these guys another robo investor scammy kind of setup, or are they really legit with a guy like you who
Mhm.
has direct experience in finance, has a tech background, and from the way you describe it, you guys are pretty much hands off, which is like for us for what, a monthly subscription or from a subscription based model, that's how you monetize.
Yep.
You're giving me financial advice that I could plug directly into my brokerage firm based on the current LLM technology.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say we give you financial advice. We're not financial
Oh,
advisors.
I know that's risky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're guiding me. You're offering me tools for my own decision making.
Exactly. Yes. So again, it's either you're going to come to us and you have some sort of idea, right? So you've been trading something or you've seen something on YouTube or whatever, you have some sort of idea and we could
Yeah.
bring that to fruition and help you refine it using the tools and back tests and things like that. Or you could go to our marketplace and see what someone else in the community has made and just start from there,
Okay.
right? You could say, hey, this guy's strategy does pretty damn well. Why don't I just copy that? Right. And those are kind of the two ways you could get into our system.
Yeah. I mean, it's very intuitive.
Hmm.
There's a Homer Simpson kind of duh aspect to this, where there's a huge white space for exactly this kind of know-how that exists right now. And
Hmm.
you're highlighting some of the barriers, which is financial advice, plugging into a broker,
Hmm.
SEC, CF, TF registration. And it could be complicated and a mess from a regulatory point of view, but you're not dipping your toes directly into that. You're outside of it by providing a tool and a resource for investors to tap into some of this cool AI stuff, if I'm
Correct. Yeah.
hearing you correctly. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So my next question is how? Like, what's the output? You're mentioning like Python code, and there's a tech aspect to your website too. Now, I grew up programming my Apple IIe computer. I'm just giving away my tender youth. I remember programming in Pascal on my Apple IIe. I
Very
get
cool.
coding, and your site has a codey kind of feel to it, and then you do show results of some bots in action with a lot of green and less red, which is encouraging, but at the same time, it heightens a little bit of my skepticism. And then I'm just wondering, like, how much of the burden of this falls on a non-code. You say for non-coders.
Hmm.
The second you bring up the opposite, it makes people feel that it's that. So
Yeah.
for non-coders, I mean, what do I do? I'm an investor. I'll register with you. I'll have a subscription. What do I need to do here?
Yeah. So I think a really good analogy of how our platform works from like a technical standpoint. There's a bunch of other websites right now that can do this um, for creating websites, right? So if you've heard of Lovable, or if you've
Yeah,
heard
they're the vibe coders. That's why I call you
of
guys the vibe coders of
exactly.
trading. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we actually took a page out of Lovable. We actually, in some ways, copied a lot of their design because I think it makes a lot of sense for what we do. So in Lovable, You'll go to Lovable and you'll tell it, make me a website that does
Yeah.
XYZ, has this button with this thing here, and it makes that website for you. And then you work back and forth with it. It's like this co-pilot, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
Mm-hmm.
the button needs to be higher up. No, this should be blue, not green. I want this extra feature in here that does this. You can talk to Lovable that way, right? We basically are doing the same thing with trading strategies, right? Where you could create that trading strategy. It creates the first thing for you. You look at the flow chart, you look at the write up, you look at the back test. Did it do what I wanted to do? Maybe no. Maybe we should instead have a stop loss a little bit bigger. Maybe instead of trading Tesla, we should trade Palantir.
Is it a
You know,
visual UI?
yes.
Like, am I moving dials and ranges? How do I interact with this data?
So you're not moving dials or anything like that. No. Although we might add some things kind of like that in the future, because there's parameters they can actually tweak. But it's more of you're talking to it, you're writing to it in English, right? So you're telling it, build me this. It builds that out for you. You now see a flow chart of how it would work, right? So I could show you a flow chart. Basically, um, for example, a Palantir option trading algorithm. The flow chart might look something like start and then go get Palantir's price. Okay, and then if Palantir's price
And
is
just to
above,
clarify, by Palantir, you're talking about buying shares of
correct.
Palantir. You're not
Yeah.
talking about using Palantir's AI technology.
Yeah, no, yes,
Just to
absolutely.
clarify, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no,
All right.
absolutely. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
buying Palantir stock. Yeah, or
Right.
options, right? So say
Right.
you want to buy their stock options, right? The flow chart might say something like, get Palantir stock price. Is stock price above whatever? And then there's a yes or a no, and it splits up, right? And then if yes, then okay, are there options right now at the money, right? Okay, and then if yes, then do the next thing. You see the flow chart of how this code would logically go through that, right? Because at the heart of it, and just like Lovable, right? And I don't know if you're aware of how Lovable does this. When you ask it to build a website for you, it actually codes it in HTML.
Yeah.
HTML and JavaScript, it writes that code for you, except that's hidden from you as a user,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because you don't need to see that, right? That's too complicated. Don't worry about it, right? If you want to, though, you can get into it, right? If you like you yourself a coder, you might want to see how the algorithm actually works, and you can actually go through line by line of code. You have the Python code available to you, and you can kind of say, okay, is this doing what I want to do, whatever, and then you could even edit the code and save it, and you could do like a manual process that way if you want to. But for the majority of the users, you don't need to worry about that, right? We'll give you a flow chart. We'll explain it to you in English, what it looks like. We'll explain it to you through back tests. We could see where did it actually trade, at what point did it buy and sell and all that kind of stuff. And you can look at charts, graphs. This is how most investors look at things, right? They want to see flow charts. They want to see a description written in English, right? Usually in English, unless you're different, country. You want to see a trading chart, right? You want to see your indicators on a chart. That's what we provide to you, right? And then you can go and say, I don't like this indicator, or no, why did it place a trade on Wednesday? It's supposed to place a trade on Thursday instead. And you can have that conversation back and forth until you have this thing that works really well for you.
All right. So that's pretty clear. So from my user experience point of view, right? I'm essentially dealing with a box with prompts, and I'm interacting with your software by just commands.
Correct.
Like dial this up, dial it back.
Correct. Where
Right?
we would like to get to, the vision of the product is, you ever watch Iron Man, how he talks to Jarvis? He was
Yeah,
building.
it's all visual. It's a visual kind
Right.
of setup. Right.
Right. There's this one specific scene where he's building, I think, a new Iron Man suit or something like that. And he's talking to Jarvis and he's like, hey, make me this suit. No. I want the leg to have this. And he like drags things around. No, this thing needs to move here. Then he rotates it with his hands. Like you're able to basically, that's what we're building. We're building your Iron Man suit for you. Right. We're Jarvis helping you build an Iron Man suit.
Right. So then, and then you're seeing the suit come to life iteratively.
Correct.
Right. All right. So let's say we go through this iterative process, and I got it right. It's basically the setup that I want to use with my broker, and I'm happy with that. Then what?
Perfect.
Then what happens?
Then you'll hit the deploy button. And when you hit the deploy button, you'll be prompted to link your broker. So you can link it. You can either paper trade first, or you could do real money. We suggest most people start with paper trading, right? Because even if you have a really good back test, when you run in real life, sometimes weird stuff happens, right? So start with paper trading, fake money, run it for a little while until you're comfortable, and then you can flip the switch, set it to real money, and run it that way.
And then how does that work? You're when you give permission through the API with your broker, let's just say,
Mhm.
that command goes directly to your broker through your profile. Is that right?
Yes. So from a technical standpoint, what we do is we'll run your bot on a server instance, like an instance of an EC2 on AWS for those who are more technically inclined,
Yeah.
right? Basically, a little computer running in the cloud that's running your code 24/7 in a loop, right? And then when it finds that it needs to place a trade, it has access to your API, to your broker, sends that buy order, sends that sell order, or gets your positions or gets your orders or whatever it needs to do. It can have that communication with your broker through this little computer that's living probably somewhere in North Virginia in a giant server farm somewhere, right? You own that little sliver that's doing whatever commands you asked it to do.
Okay. And then again, bringing up concerns, potential concerns of people viewing and listening. APIs tend to communicate in both directions.
Mhm.
So, can you give folks assurance that my information with my broker is secure despite this connection through you?
Yeah, we do a lot of things to keep security as high as possible, right? Of course, security is very important here, right? At the very base level, right? When we're communicating with your broker, there's already a layer of security because people are not able to take out money, withdraw, deposit money, anything like that in your brokerage account because we don't own it, right?
Right.
This lives with someone else, so that's already one layer of security. They're not going to withdraw your money, right? Because we don't want that access. I don't want that access. You know what I mean? We
So
place
you have no touch points with the money. It's more providing instruction for the broker with obvious informed consent here to
Yep,
do a trade.
correct. Yes. We can
O-
trade, we can get your positions, we can get your account value. We cannot deposit or withdraw money. That's something
Okay.
completely
And
off
then
limits.
my secondary question to that is you're building up a substantive database of my financials at my broker as well as your other clients. So I'm assuming that that just sits with you guys.
Yeah, correct. We don't sell data. This data
Okay.
is very valuable. So
All
we definitely
right. I mean, I'm bringing up the obvious here
yeah.
to assuage folks and, encourage them potentially to give you guys a whirl.
Yeah,
So, in summary, on the innovation side, we've got a vibe coding resource for trading using
correct.
all the goodies that you described. The interface, as you described, is really like a fintech GPT. You go in, you see what's going on, you could tweak it, tell it to tweak,
Mhm.
much like you're on Lovable building a website. You're building a trade or you're building a sequence of trades and conceivably even building up a portfolio of different ways that you can go about trading.
Correct.
And you don't touch the money. You have nothing to do with the money of your investors. And you have an API or backend connection to their brokers to essentially just facilitate these trades that the investor, him or herself, has vibe coded with you.
Correct. Exactly. That's a
Okay.
very good description. Yes.
All right, great. And again, just going to your website, I had mixed reactions. Again, just being transparent and giving you feedback of one, this bald guy, that I was excited about the prospect of this capability, but I was a little bit worried about some of these factors. And I was uncertain as to your exact role with the handling of actual money, with providing financial advice. And again, there's no SEC logo, there's no CFTC logo. Who are you guys? I don't know. That
Yep.
kind of thing. And speaking with you, I'm much more assured knowing that you guys are firewalled away from my money and you're providing me essentially an AI resource for doing my trades.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
That
Exactly.
is cool. So
Yeah.
you've educated me. My one takeaway from this is maybe get a marketing guy in there at LumiWealth, which is you kind of scared me with your website. So on the upfront, it's taken us about 30-40 minutes for me to really understand your model. And some of these upfront concerns and objections, I think, rather than Robert giving you the avatar narrative, could be maybe a little more self-evident. And the reason I bring this up is because it's scam city out there.
Oh yeah.
There's no, I mean, my feed, everyone's feed, crypto, AI, invest here. Give me your mother's maiden name and I'll send it to Nigeria. I mean, it's a mess out there. And to me, given your background, your pedigree in everything from blockchain to finance and your entrepreneurial background, coupled with your business model, makes me feel pretty good about this offering that you're creating. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, so it's taken us a while to build this product and get it to a point where this thing works well. We are now entering into the phase that we're going to be really marketing this thing hard, right? Which is why we're on all these podcasts.
That's why we're here. That's why I'm here. Yeah. And I don't mean to call your baby ugly. I'm just saying that hearing you speak and describing what your model actually is very, very different than my initial impression of the capability.
So what I'd be interested to hear, and we could turn this around the other way, is what would be on the homepage for you to understand this better? How would it look different? I can tell you one thing we're thinking about doing is putting the Lovable text box up on the front.
Yes.
You could type in, and you could just type in, and I think that'll convey a lot of it already. But what else would you put on the website, on the homepage, to convey this better?
I think that kind of language, you wearing the hat of just an investor, and I'm assuming you want to broaden your reach, right? You want reach and engagement to the widest possible informed, investor with some liquidity where they can, experiment and play with cutting edge stuff with minimal to no risk. There's never no risk, but minimal risk. So the first thing that I would love to see is this vibe coding trading assistant idea, any which way you do it. Like the Lovable box is great. I don't know about trademark and all that, but even if you say we're the Lovable of trading, immediately I would have a much better impression as to your role. And even terms like vibe coding your trades could be something that will assuage concerns and sexy it up. The other reaction I had is this looks like kind of an interim between heavy duty line by line coding and what you guys actually are. I got the impression that I'm going to have to go into the Python script here and noodle around, to be honest with you, the way that the website looks, and make it a little bit more consumer friendly, which is, look at the Lovable site. It's not about the back end, it's about the front. And it's also about the user experience, which is intuitive, obvious, and everyone loves their LLM, right? People are falling in love with their chatbot right now. So instead of all the tech hocus pocus, it's like, to your point, just a box, and maybe illustrate with a GIF, like put together a portfolio, put together a trade where, and then it just rips it out. I would love that. And then the other thing, I think, just brainstorming this, assure me that you're not messing with my money. That's not self-evident at all from the website. I was concerned, which is like, if I give you my name and number, an email, and I sign up, are you going to be moving my money around? And who the hell are you? And what you're saying is that we don't touch your money at all. We're just providing you that smart intelligence for your trading.
I think that's fantastic. I took some notes, by the way.
Okay, great. And
So
you can have this recording. I'll do little YouTube clips for you of this conversation. But I think I'm excited by what you offer. And to be honest with you, I thought it was a little bit sketchy at first, and it doesn't seem to be like that at all. So
yeah,
I think that it would be very, very helpful to assuage, my concerns, and presumably those who would love fintech GPT, would love a lovable trading assistant, and one that's
yeah,
firewalled off from my principal. Don't touch my
exactly, exactly. We can definitely
principal.
add those.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, 100%. I think you're right. We're very good at making products, right? This is
right.
something that, I've spent my life doing, building out products. We have a good team behind this. Marketing, not so much, right? That's
That's
definitely
usually the
something
case, and
we can get a lot better at.
that's my
So,
forte. That's why I have the Bald Ambition podcast, where I talk about consultative selling, and I talk about leading based on the needs of your customer rather than the value proposition that is near and dear to you, which is it
absolutely.
turns it around, which is when I'm coming to a site like this, I'm immediately worried that I'm going to be ripped off.
Hmm.
And it's new technology, which is inherently risky. So I immediately need two things. I need excitement to keep my attention, and I need assurance that this isn't so sketchy that I should just tune you guys out. And
Yeah.
based on our conversation, I flipped from skepticism to excitement. And I think it's through some of these analogies of what we're already familiar with. You don't need to educate people about LLMs like you
Mhm.
might have had to even a year ago.
Yep.
And then if you could just, share your value prop as that, friendly bot tool who can help with your investing. And lastly, I don't want to do work. I just want to type. Like I use my chat GPT to get the next recipe and put together my workout list. You see the gym stuff, like Monday do biceps, right? It's, the LLMs are great at putting together a list and helping us, being a helper in our lives. I had like a gecko sneak into my apartment. I live in California, and I'm like, I chat GPT, what do you do if there's a lizard in your bedroom? Right? And everyone does this. So
Yep.
it's so intuitive to be like, I got 50 G's that I'm willing to play with here.
Mhm.
And I would love to have an LLM to help me invest this. And as long as it doesn't mess with my money and empowers me with these decisions, and actually can talk direct to my broker based on the output with
Yep.
minimal to no risk, I'm in.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And we're on a platform, and by the way, we're actually hiring people in marketing. So if
Okay.
anyone in your network or anyone listening
All
to this
right.
wants to
You can
actually help
even
out
hire
with
this podcaster.
there we go. Yeah, there we go.
This is great. And
Yep.
this is the kind of conversation I love, which begins with uncertainty, ignorance, and skepticism, namely me, because I don't really know your service. And
Mhm.
thanks to a great narrative and a story that underlies how you created your company and why, we bring up the benefits. And then I think that that's pretty cool. So thanks for joining me on the Bald Ambition podcast. We're about at the hour. I'm going to leave links to your website. If there's any other resources you'd like to share, then I'll be happy to share those too. And let's keep the conversation going. You're just starting out, right? I see the 2025 at the bottom of your site. So this is
Yeah,
new,
I
just
mean,
like most of this is new.
yeah, I mean,
And
if
you're
you
spreading the word.
yeah, if you said you had an LLM-based AI company that started 10 years ago, I'd be questioning what you're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah, but now
We're
it's
all doing
viable and it's got extensibility everywhere, and it totally makes sense that a company like yours would help folks with the vibe coding of their trades and their
Yeah,
investment.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Yep.
Robert. I appreciate your time. Like,
Thank you very
comment,
much.
share. It'll be available on YouTube and wherever your podcasts are done. And we will talk again soon.